me start to just begin to tell you that I am excited to be here. I'm very passionate about this message, and I hope it's something that you can take and apply to your lives. To begin with, I wanted to introduce my family to you here. Yes, you're counting right. There's 6 kids up there. My bride and mother of our 6 children is here with me. I want to thank her for her support today. Back in 2008, our family adopted a motto that has been very much a part of our life. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. Right now, I want to focus on this young man. This is my son, David. He's 13. And back when he was 5 years old in 2008, he decided he wanted to go for round 2 on the terrible twos. He was a whiny pants. He was complaining about everything. One of his nicknames was Mr. Grouchy Pants. But I'll tell you more about him in just a minute as well. One of the concerns I have with giving you this message is that it's so simple, so basic, that I hope you don't miss the importance it can have, not only in your life personally, but with everyone else you are in contact with as well. My message is nothing new. You've heard this before. In fact, in this conference, I've seen threads of my message going through several of the presentations and talks. But I hope to present it to you from a different angle, possibly a little deeper, a little more personal. I'd like to try and humanize it a little bit. You've heard this message before when you've heard the Cherokee legend where the Cherokee grandfather talks about the 2 wolves that are always fighting inside of us. Or in this Disney film from 1941 where Pluto finds out that he has an angel self and a devil self. My message is simply this. Inside each one of us, there are 2 of us. One that I want to refer to as our true self. This is the person inside of us that wants to succeed. This is the person who is driven to be their best self, to be kind, and all the great qualities that most people have. Just the opposite is our natural self. This is the person who could care less, and just the opposite of everything that the true self stands for. When I say natural self, I don't want you to misinterpret that. I don't want you to think about natural as this is a good type of natural, where this young man, his natural talent in music, that's a good thing. The natural I'm talking about is the path of least resistance, like what water takes, okay? In 2008, along with many others, I was having one of the toughest times in my life. For the sake of time, I'll just tell you that at the beginning of the year, I owned 2 businesses. And by the middle of the year, I had to sell one, and not long after that, I had to close down the other one. And it wasn't long before I found myself having to accept a job that I was completely uncomfortable with. And it was basically, I became a salesman to restaurants, selling food, paper, cleaning products. And at the beginning, I was really struggling with this. I was having a hard time, and also knowing the fact that I had a wife and 6 children who were depending on me to provide for them. One day, as I was driving to work, thinking about what I was going to be doing that day, I started to analyze my own attitude and my own energy level. And it dawned on me that I had the power inside myself to change things. I started to realize, and this is when I made this 2 self-discovery, that if I was to try and be my true self, I would do a much better job and be much more productive. But on the contrary, if I allowed my natural self to take over, I was going to get to the point where I really didn't care. It was going to be something that kind of brought me down. And so I decided that I wanted to try and experiment with this. I went on to do more cold calling that day, visiting restaurant managers and owners, and I tried to do a better job with looking them in the eye, squaring up my shoulders, having a firm handshake, and trying to be a better listener overall to them. What I started to find as I did this was that I had this new energy that was carrying me to higher levels. And I got really excited about what I was starting to experience and feel. Later that night when I went home, I gathered my family around me, and I wanted to share with them what they did, what I had done that day, what I had discovered. And I told them about true self versus natural self. And then what I did was I applied it to our family. And we talked about what it meant to our family if you were your true self or your natural self. I shared with them the ideas that if they were to clean their room or even brush their teeth or obey mom and dad in general, how it would be different if they did it as their true self versus their natural self. I thought overall we had a good discussion. I was pretty sure that my son David and his two younger sisters, this message was probably going to fly right over their head. The next day, when I got back from work, the first one that ran up to me was my 5-year-old son David. He ran up and said, Dad, guess what? I was my true self all day long. I looked over at my wife who was standing nearby, and with this incredulous, wide-eyed look on her face, she nodded. He was. And I looked back down at him and I said, that's great, Dave. How did you do it? And he said, Dad, it was easy. All I had to do was tell my natural self to go out to the backyard. I couldn't believe it. He totally got it. He understood the difference between being his true self versus being his natural self. From that day on, we adopted as a family the motto, be your true self, or BYTS for short. Now, to help me reinforce my message here, I asked someone who's very loved and known by all of us, Mr. Jeff Drozdowski, to participate in a short photo shoot with me. So I want to show you, please allow me to introduce to you, True Self Jeff. Now, these are qualities that True Self Jeff has. This is the true Jeff that is a great husband to his wife. He's a great father to his children. This is the guy who likes coming to work. He does a great job at work. He lights up the room when he walks in. We all love True Self Jeff, right? Now, allow me to do the opposite and introduce you to Natural Self Jeff. This is Natural Self Jeff, who really does not care if he does not a good job at work, or even if you like him or not. As far as he's concerned, the fact that you breathe the same air that he does annoys him. He doesn't like you. He doesn't care. He probably got up late that morning. So that's Natural Self Jeff. I'm happy to report that I know and work with True Self Jeff, and it's a pleasure to do so. I hope I never have to meet this guy. I believe that for the most part, all of us are our true selves. And you might ask, if this is true, then why have the bother of doing a BYTS motto? I believe that if each of us truly sits down and analyzes our life and our efforts to live up to all the different roles we play, think of all the different roles you play in your life, and do a self-analysis. Are you being your true self in those roles, or are you being your natural self? I'll bet you, just like I've done, I've found several areas where, if I'm being honest, I'm letting my natural self actually be in charge and in the driver's seat. Okay? So that's why I put this up here. Be your true blank self. If you put your role in there, how would your life be different? Stop and think about that for a minute. Can you imagine the impact the BYTS message could have if you as trainers taught your employees the differences between true self and natural self? And then when you ask them to make a bed or wash dishes or anything else that you need to ask them to do, how is it going to be different if they are asked to do it as their true self? I can assure you that basically what you're going to help them understand is that you're asking them to live it, to do their work at a higher standard and not accept minimum mode, which is, am I right? That's usually what happens. Everyone's kind of in this minimum mode. And we get what we accept, what we allow to happen. There's so much more I could share with you about this message, but my time is up. Before I go, though, I want to share another concern I have with sharing this message. It is simply this. I don't want you to think that with this message comes the expectation that you have to be perfect. That's not what I'm saying at all. Since my true self-discovery, I have had several times where I have not been my true husband self or my true dad self. I have not been my true employee self or friend self. But I can tell you that when I have tried to focus on being my true self, life goes so much better for me as well as for everyone else around me. My hope is that this message will help you realize the same thing that it did for me. I want to invite you to give it a try. Write the acronym BYTS down in some strategic areas. It might be at your workstation. It might be in the bathroom, your bathroom mirror, or even in your rearview mirror as you drive. Maybe some of you have a little problem with road rage. If you will do that, and whenever you see it, truly reach down inside yourself and make the conscious decision to try to be your true self versus your natural self, I can assure you're going to have a much better life, and so will those who are around you. The last thing I'd like to ask you is to help me spread this message. We don't have to look very hard to see that there's plenty of negativity out in the world. And for this reason, we have this BYTS movement. Let's share this with everyone. For more information, you can go to www.beyourtrueself.life. That is right, .life. And please let me know if I can help in any way. Thank you.